Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 495 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by Pot of Gold Auctions, pogauctions.com, where you set the price on guns, ammo, accessories, antiques, collectibles, cars, boats, jewelry, coins, you name it, pogauctions.com. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. Our theme today is Real Solutions for Suicide Prevention, and our guest is Michael Sodini. Michael is the founder of Walk the Talk America, a nonprofit organization dedicated to bridging the gap between mental health professionals and firearm owners.
Welcome back to the show, Michael.
And thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Mike, I've seen the gap is closing in. It's getting better. You've done a lot to make that happen.
Yeah, it's been, I was just talking about this with somebody the other day about 2018 to now, right? And it's a completely different attitude. It's nice to be part of sort of, I guess some would say like spearheading a cultural shift in the way we think as the gun community is. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's more or less like a lot of times I think we thought, well, what can we do about it? Right? Like, what can we do about it? And now it's more like, yeah, we're doing something about it. And you kind of mix gun rights in with also suicide prevention and better mental health and becoming those resources. So it's cool to watch.
Yeah. So we talked off the air a little bit, and there's people that thought that the only solution was that no guns, and that's never going to happen. So why don't we come up with something that will work for both? The people that don't necessarily like guns can still help promote safety and prevention. They don't have to just say we can't have guns, period.
Right.
Absolutely.
If you can get them to focus on something positive that makes sense, then you can kind of slowly change their attitude about things, or they trust. The trust is, you build a trust there. What were you saying, Cheryl?
I apologize for that, but so one of your Instagram videos, pardon me, that I saw recently, you were talking about, you were in a room or a discussion, and you get to go into some very interesting rooms with people who, at the outset, you would say, we're not going to agree on anything. And yet you've been able to really build some bridges. But you were in this video talking about how, we have to come to terms with one side is never going to stop trying to implement red flag laws, right? The other side is never going to, their guns are not going to disappear. We have to live with this tension, which is, there could be a healthy middle ground here somewhere. And I think that maybe one of those is something that you just told us about called the Armory Project. So can you kind of dive into that and where, people that are in a state of need, that they would like to have a place to safely store their firearms, right? So that they're not going to get red flagged. And then the mental health community is feeling like, okay, there is a solution. So I don't have to freak out just because somebody's sitting on my couch telling me they own guns and they're not feeling their best. Dive into that space. What is this Armory Project?
Okay, so the Armory Project was started by a lady named Gala True out of she's out of New Orleans, but basically started in Louisiana as a whole state. So she had an idea to do safe storage with firearm shops. So she went around to all the firearm shops, got a bunch of no's because of liability. The thought process was, what if I hold someone's guns and then I give them back too soon? And being the forward thinker that she is, she basically had some legislation proposed and passed with flying colors on the very first, go around by both sides of the aisle. Which, when does that happen, right?
That's
These days.
amazing.
Yeah, it,
And
it just
so
took.
needed because we were retail firearms store owners up until about 4 years ago. And that was a huge concern that we had for using our store as a safe storage space. So huge kudos to, is it Gala True, you said, with the
Yeah.
Armory
Yep.
Project? That's amazing. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Talk more about
So
that.
so after, she had signed up like three stores before, which I love, right? Because it shows that three stores literally were like, it's the right thing to do. I'll take my chances, right? Because we can play the I'm scared to be sued game all day long. I mean, this is America. You could be sued for anything.
That's true.
Um, it is, right? But so she ends up getting the legislation passed and goes like back to all the other, gun shops, and it was night and day. Like, people were like, "Oh, you got this passed. This is great," right? These are small victories. And Gallo, if you were talking to Gala, she probably wasn't out there saying, "I'm fighting for Second Amendment rights." She was just fighting for what makes sense, right? And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that is like the biggest thing that I want to make clear is that it just makes sense. So she builds this network. And now I think she's up to almost like 40 shops in Louisiana
Wow.
that some way contribute to the Armory Project, right? But the whole concept of the Armory Project, and we're building upon it right now because I do a lot of consulting for her, is let's not just give gun owners a place to drop off their firearms at a time of need, but like, let's also help them with their plan in the future, right? Maybe the way that they store firearms. And then also too, let's give them a pathway to recovery. So we're working on a few things that actually, when we put it in place, I want to come back on and talk about, but that's the biggest thing. So like, why do we hate red flag laws? Not only because they can be abused, but it doesn't really do anything to get your mind right. Like, it's like, hey,
Exactly.
I'm gonna take the one item out of the house,
Mm-hmm.
and good luck,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
That could
yeah,
even
I mean,
actually make them mentally worse because
Mm-hmm.
they feel
100%.
like they can't protect their family or whatever. So if somebody in a family has signs that they may do suicide or hurt themselves, you would take these guns to a locker at a gun shop, and they would store the guns for you for as long as you needed. Is that how it works?
Yeah, if the stores, different stores are all different, as you guys know,
Right.
right? Like, I'm preaching to the choir here, but some have lockers, some have other methods of the way they store the firearms. But basically, depending on what the store is comfortable with, that's how it would work. So they would store the gun for a period of time, and they recommend, like, let's at least do like a month, right? Like,
Mhm.
but that's the beauty of the way that she's doing it, is like, it's like, how can you contribute? And that's the biggest thing, right? There are some people that are part of the Armory Project that won't do safe storage, but they know the other safe storage partners in the area. But they have, say, like the Walk the Talk America Free and Anonymous mental health screenings out, or the Armory projects literature, the mental health plan, right? Like, it's how do we get everybody involved to where they're comfortable. And then sometimes Gallo will be the first one to tell you, like, some shops at first just start small, and then they're like, okay, now I saw how this blueprint worked for the guy down the street, I'm ready to jump in too. So it really truly is a network. And they have monthly calls where they're all the shops are on. There's a lot of feedback, seeing what works, what doesn't. Some shops are better at it than others. um, I wouldn't even say better at it than others. Like, some shops somehow attract more people that drop off firearms than others, right?
Right.
But um, it's a really neat program, and where it can expand to, the sky's the limit. So, Gala is like me. Like, we should be working on the stuff that we've created, but we're constantly looking at ways to make things better. And she brought the cultural competence course from WTTA out to Louisiana, and Jake and I went out there, and it was kind of like, let's see how, Louisiana doesn't have a red flag law. Okay, so there's some things in play in other states that are more important or messages to get across than others. But at the
Hmm.
same time, it was still good to go out there and meet with all the mental health clinicians to make them understand that there could be a fear of somebody, dropping off or talking to them about firearms, or, is it safe to drop these off? And if you get the whole community together, right, you get the
Hmm.
clinicians that are trained to understand gun culture, you get the gun shops to jump in on suicide prevention and better mental health. It's a nice network to have. And then you get the gun community knowing, okay, these are safe spaces, right? Like places I
Yeah,
can go in a time of crisis.
that's
Well,
awesome.
I wish I had a gun shop again because I think that's a great program. The uh, the thing is, you have a family that's having a situation, and they don't necessarily want to trust their next door neighbor to hold their guns.
Mm.
It may not be safe. They may be a fear of theft or a fear of whatever, but having a neutral spot that you could take your guns to
Yeah,
and have
that's
them protect
awesome.
us,
So
it's
it's
great.
the armoryproject.org for anybody out there listening and interested in that. And, so often when we're looking for solutions, I feel like, in the conversation about guns, it goes off the rails. And it's like, if you need an oncologist, you don't go to a foot doctor, right? Or a heart doctor or vice versa. And it seems like we're always looking for the wrong uh, solution or person to solve it. And very rarely do we go to the root of the problem of, well, suicides are this big portion of the numbers that the other side uses to say, look at gun violence is out of control, right? Well, the solutions for people that fall into despair are very different than, inner city gang issues, which is another huge number, which is different than on down the line. And there's another program that is connected on your website, I see, called Roots. So I'm hoping you can kind of talk to us a little bit about that. Am I on the right path? Is Roots really trying to get to the root of things?
Well, we call it roots because it stands for responsible ownership, outreach, technology, and safety. And all the negative outcomes of firearms, I think roots comes into play. So what roots is a conglomerate of safety products from the firearms industry that get no love from the firearms industry, and then everybody outside of the firearms industry doesn't really know about, right? And the reason they don't get love from the firearms industry is not because we don't believe in safety and responsibility. It's just, and you two owned a shop, so you absolutely know what I'm talking about. But after you buy all your firearms, all your ammunition, all your holsters, and everything like that, like safety products can be bulky. They can be tough to decide who you want to pick because a lot of these companies are one SKU products. So the distributors don't touch them. And then the rep groups don't touch them because it's tough to rep a one SKU product. Like, why are you going to waste your energy on that? So, what we're trying to do is get them to come together so we can make a conglomerate for maybe, the rep groups and the distributors to take a better look at them, and maybe the dealers to be able to take a look at them. Right now, it's made up of 5 companies. They all have unique products, very cool technology products. So, you got Gun Alert, you got Kinesium, you got Boss Lock, you got Regal, and then you got Vera Safety. Here's what's really cool though. Outside of the gun industry and the firearms community, everybody thinks the only thing we have is either giant safes, medium-sized safes, and obviously cable locks. Um, there's so much more available that they don't know. So at the firearms harm reduction conference that I was at in Tempe a few months ago, we had a Roots table there, and it was one of the most popular tables at the whole event because there were so many people coming by and picking up a gun alert and finding out all the features that a gun alert has. This is Regal's cable lock. Now I know I just kind of joked around about cable locks. That's like the thing that the whole industry goes, that most of them go in the trash. But like what if you had a biometric cable lock that, opened immediately when you touched it, right? And like these are products that nobody knows about. that we're making people aware. And here's what's really cool. A few of the products have already been picked up in research studies by universities that were attending the conference. So, you know, you said it before, Dan, like we're bridging the gap. This is one way to do it. These guys they're not going to come into our world and learn about our safety products. We got to bring the safety products to their world and make them aware of it, and then create I mean, there's nothing that I get more pleasure than taking the owner of Boss Lock and giving his number and saying, here, now you have a contact there. You don't even have to go through me anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, however,
Yes.
they want to help you. So that's kind of what Roots is. Because we all know that suicide, I mean, even inner city violence, right? Like
Mhm.
guns can be stolen, right? Right.
Mhm.
Like Roots plays into every negative outcome of a firearm, responsibility, that type of thing.
Mhm.
So all these things can be used for responsible storage, but also for suicide prevention, which is kind of
Yes.
neat.
It would be cool if those locks had something that would notify an owner that it's moved, that has been,
Yeah.
Well, the gun alert does, right?
It
That's what
does?
I'm saying.
Okay.
Each one of the companies has a totally unique product. That's why they all play so nice in the sandbox right now. This
Uh-huh.
is the time to put them all together as a conglomerate because everything is a little different, right? And the cool thing about so this is like the Regal. This is the lock that I just showed you with the biometric, right?
Uh-huh.
But we could keep building on better ideas of this stuff, right? So one of the things that I thought of when I was shown this by Kenny Barlow at Regal, I was like, how cool would it be if when you touched this, it had a setting to where you could hear your daughter's voice to say something like, Daddy, I love you.
Oh my
You
gosh.
That
Oh,
just gave me
right?
goosebumps.
Like these are
That's
things
that
that it doesn't
pause, a
matter.
pause, right?
Exactly, right. Tying it all, bringing it back together, giving time and space, something you love. But
Mhm.
when the outside world hears about ideas like this, they love the ideas
Mhm.
just as much as we do. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, um,
Very
you
cool.
just
Love it.
that is a great idea.
So, something else that we kind of talked about, but not enough that I fully understand it, is that you have first ever grants that are coming your way, I'm assuming, from the healthcare side, and kind of there's a place at the table that hasn't been there before. Am I am I even asking that question correctly?
No, you are. You're absolutely. So I'm excited to be working with some major academic institutions that want to do some research projects together. And the good part about it is we've been doing all of our research. It's all been free, and it's been with the help of the firearms industry, right? Everybody that gets our surveys, when you see a Walk to Talk America survey, when it gets out there, is because somebody's helped us promote it. Because Walk to Talk America doesn't have this massive following, so we need people like Guns of America and Guns.com and Bearing Arms and you guys to push it out. But it's caught the attention of a lot of these universities that do research. And I think one of the best ways to uh, bridge the gap is to start getting, because we can't pay for it. Walk Talk America doesn't get that much money. So we need help from the researchers where we can give them guidance on, hey, let's find out some real research. Let's do some research that doesn't just paint guns in a negative light, or let's research the negative effects of possibly ERPO laws, right? Like right now, I have a really cool research project that's going to examine the fear that these things cause, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we need grants and we need money coming from the public health sector that, they get this money anyway. So why don't we use it for something good for firearms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get out of the box. Let's get out how we're stuck. Take, for example, our Kids at Kings program. And this is one I can talk about right now. We have the University of Buffalo right now um, setting up the process of a structure of how we can get some good data from our kids that go through this Kids to Kings course, if you will. It's not really a course. This is like a continuation. I mean, some of our kids we've had for a couple of years, right? But none of our kids have ever come out of that program, especially when they get older and move on to college, with ever having a negative incident with a firearm.
Wow.
And it needs to be researched, right?
Yes.
And Um, I'm not a researcher. I did that when I first did the first survey. I got so much crap for doing it the way I did from the research community and guys like David Yamani that were like, "What are you doing? You're no better than them if you do it like this." And I'm like, "No, uh, here's the reason why I'm doing it." Once I explained myself, I think people understood, and then I welcome it. It's like I welcome the research community. I need
Yes.
you to research all my programs because I'm
Yes.
horrible at collecting data and research. So if you can make it your way where it's official, I'm all
Yes.
in. I got nothing to hide. Like I lean into research. So
No, that's amazing. And Kids to Kings, the best way that I can understand it is when I was growing up, there was something called Big Brothers Big Sisters. And I feel like it's similar to that, only with firearms. Am
yeah, firearms weaved in, right?
Yeah, because it does teach responsibility and follow through and all those things that we want kids to learn. You can learn that out on the range with a safe and responsible adult by your side.
Yeah, if you watch any of the videos that we have online, like at the Kids to Kings page, or you can find it to the Walk Talk America page on most social medias, but it's not just let's take a bunch of kids and put guns in their hands and let them shoot. There's so much more to it. I mean, Kevin Dixie and the founder Devin Perkins, they got kids out there doing oil changes on cars,
I love it.
right? Like teaching them life skills. The
Life
gun,
skills.
the firearms, that's more of a bonus,
Yeah.
right? So, these kids aren't shooting if they're not getting good grades or they're misbehaving. They're sweeping brass. Like that's, you know what I
I love
mean? Like, so
this.
there's a reason for them to show up all the time and do well.
Yeah.
Financial coaching. I mean, we expose these kids to so much more. So I hate to. It is firearms, believe me, but
Mm-hmm.
I hate to just like when people are just like, oh yeah, it's an inner city youth shooting sports. No, you're right, Cheryl. It's a mentorship program.
Mm-hmm.
you
I
know,
love that. I love that. So we also talked about how, and maybe you've already touched on this enough, but how your mental health survey is, kind of been kicked up. I mean, I'm sure there's been progressions through all these years, but taking it to the next level, and the research institution coming on board soon. Did we cover that fully, or is there more that we can kind of tease out about that?
well, yeah, we did cover it. I guess what I want your listeners to understand is that when you see a survey from Walk the Talk America, you can confidently take that survey and understand that that data will never be put towards anything that will be negative to firearms. So
Mm-hmm.
if we come out with an ERPO survey, or we come out with a mental health survey, or we come
Mm-hmm.
out with a how do you store your firearm survey, I want you to answer it honestly and understand
Mm-hmm.
that your information will be protected and it will never be used in any kind of argument to
So
hurt
important.
us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that all the relationships that I'm developing, that's understood that I'm not going to help you talk to gun owners if it's not going to be reasonable and things that we can improve upon and
Mm-hmm.
have some wins for the gun owning community. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's the biggest
Mm-hmm.
thing. We're constantly, you know, advising or consulting. And I always try to remind people it's got to be a two-way street, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to have bad laws on the books, which I
Mm-hmm.
I think ERPOs are bad laws,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
But they're already there. But if we're going to talk, I want some wins. Like I want to
Yes.
make these laws at least improved upon. If you're going to have a bad law, I want you to try to make it better and don't stop until it gets to wherever it can be as the best herbal law, if that's a thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
once again, until I always say there's like two sides of this fight. There's the route I'm going, and then there's, the GOAs and everybody that's on that front line. But until these things are turned over and
Mm-hmm.
they disappear, we have to keep knocking on that door to be like, this is not right, make it better, this is where this is harmful. You don't quit.
The best turbo law is the one that doesn't get passed and put on the books. But once it's
Right.
there, as you said, like how can we work on that?
Michael, I've been thinking about some things, and while we're having this conversation. So I don't want to flub something up, but you know, when I first met you, you were fighting against the mental health people that guns were bad, and you're trying to bridge that gap. And I've been thinking, I've done estate sales for about 20 years now, where I've done estates and helped people get things out of their house. And there has been three incidences that I know of that were suicides, that people had guns in the house. They didn't use guns to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And that's why it's very important that the mental health people know that it's not, you got to think past the gun. You
Mm-hmm.
got to think about the mind itself,
Mm-hmm.
because I know of three times they did not use a gun
Yeah.
and they still committed suicide.
Yeah. I mean, there
And
are
they had access
huge,
to the guns.
huge numbers out there when they
Right,
do. And that's, we have to address both. But that is a very interesting
right.
thought that that's not
That
always the method.
that's one of the coolest stories in Walk the Talk America's like origin story is the time that I actually I got a call and somebody invited me to lunch, and I remember like my friend was like, "Hey, sit down with her. She wants to talk to you. She can probably help you raise some money." This is the very beginning. And I
Mhm.
remember like I couldn't tell if she was pro gun or anti gun or gun neutral, but she was like, "The story I'm about to tell you, if I had a gun, I wouldn't be here right now." Right. So of course I was kind of like, okay, but actually it wasn't, she didn't, she just said that if she had a gun, she wouldn't be here. She would have taken her life if she had the firearm. She could have done it another way, but it wasn't an anti-gun thing. It was more about the stigma. She
Mhm.
went
Mm-hmm.
too far, too long because she didn't want to lose her job,
Mm-hmm.
um, not addressing her mental health. But later on that night, I
Mm-hmm.
remember I was talking to somebody who's a prominent writer in the firearms industry who's
Mm-hmm.
did a couple tours in Afghanistan. And I remember like he started his whole um, speech to me, and he's like, he started it off with, "If I didn't have my gun, I wouldn't be here right now to tell you the story." And it gave me chills because it was like, I
Yes.
didn't tell him about that story in the morning, the lunch
Yes.
story. And he said
Yes.
the opposite. And he actually, Dan had the same mentality. He goes, after I came back from Afghanistan, I had PTSD. I, I, I wanted to take my own life, but I knew I would never do it with a gun because I never would contribute to the negative outcome of a firearm. I didn't want to
Yeah.
be part of that number. And
Yeah.
then cut to, I'm in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with a bunch of conglomerates for Fun for a Safer Future, and there was a guy who did some research, and believe it or not, like I love that he said it aloud in front of all the other people, because there's some people that you'd consider anti-gun in there, but brought up that same point. So there's a lot of people that are very conscious of that. Like, I
Right.
won't use a firearm to do it
Yeah.
because
And
of
I can almost envision that, this person saying almost like screw you. I'm not going to add to your numbers. I'm going to
yeah.
stay alive if my only method is the gun because I'm not going to add to your numbers.
But we need the doctors to realize that. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of them just say it's guns and the period, and they cut the line right there. And
Hmm.
if they don't address the real problem, then they're not going to solve the problem.
Absolutely. So
Well, just to be clear, real quick, sorry, Cheryl, but
that's okay.
we're not saying that a gun is a tool. Gun is where convenience, basically meets effectiveness. That's
Hmm.
it, right?
Hmm.
Like, I believe that if you really wanted to, if you want to make it final, right? You stand in front of a train. I've never seen anybody come back from that. I've actually talked to people that have shot themselves with a firearm with the intention of ending their life, and
Yes.
they lived.
Yes.
But we all have to admit, and I think we should all lean into this, is that it's where effectiveness,
Yeah.
meets convenience. That's it. That's all. Like,
Yeah.
okay, let's
Yeah.
let's let's find the solutions from there. So I just wanted to add that as a side note for any listener.
Well, I have a relative that did it three times and didn't succeed three times. And sometimes I think that, well, maybe it really wasn't suicide they were trying to do.
Yeah.
There's more
Yeah.
to it.
Sometimes.
So there's a lot to it, but that's what the doctors are supposed to figure out, I guess.
Absolutely. So going back to and kind of punctuating how the firearms community really is putting the work in and really looking for solutions um, at the SHOT Show, which is the biggest industry convention every year in Las Vegas in January every year. Um, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the NSSF, they put on the SHOT Show. And this year, I think, was the first time that they had included a suicide prevention panel, and you were part of that. And, to take SHOT Show is already wall to wall, top to bottom. People are just maxed out with meetings and appointments and walking the floor and doing all the things. So to carve out the time for anything is very significant. And so the fact that they've carved out time for a suicide prevention panel, I had huge respect for that. I had to be gone by the time that happened. We had to be back in Phoenix. But I do think there's a recording of it. But you were part of that panel. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, it was town hall. Secretary Doug Collins from the VA was basically the keynote speaker. He came on and did 20 minutes, and then after that we had a panel which I was part of, which consisted of like Bill Broussard, Joe Bartozzi, Emmy Betts, Chris Barsotti, Bartozzi, and then Jacqueline Clark from Bristol Cone. So there's a few different people on that panel, and I was, every one of us got like 20 minutes to speak, and then I was closing it out. I chose to take my time to speak to the crowd, and it was a packed house, which is great. It was good to see, right? Like, you talk about all over the years, like the crowds just keep getting bigger at these events, and more people are interested. But I chose to spend my time talking about my story with Bill Strominger, the president, my friend who took his own life with a firearm in 2009, but also the evolution of Walk to Talk America. And I didn't want to make it a commercial for Walk to Talk America. I just wanted to make a point that when you're in the firearms community, you can sometimes get caught up in thinking like, well, I shouldn't do this because I don't want to cause this, or I shouldn't talk about suicide because I don't want to cause suicide. Or what can I really do? And I wanted to show people that there is always something you can do. And believe it or not, I think you'll be more appreciated by doing something than absolutely doing nothing when it comes to this. So that was my part in it, but it was awesome. I can't say enough good things about NSSF and their commitment to this, because NSSF has a lot. I live suicide prevention and better mental health every day. It's my career. Like I can go on for the next 2 hours with you guys if you let me, right? So they can't, right? They have sections, and they have different things that they got to tackle: gun rights, SHOT Show, all the leadership conferences. So I'm happy that they've stuck with it, because the VA is constantly changing, and they still continue the message. And I was honored to be part of that. If you look at that panel and who was on that panel, there's some people doing some amazing work, in the space. So for Walk to Talk America to get recognized by NSSF is like, hey man, we need you up here to speak. They've always included me in everything, but they've never necessarily asked me to speak. So this was a first.
That is
so
awesome,
it was
Michael.
exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, a family, what's the best way for them to learn how to look for things that are signs that there may be a suicide problem in your house?
Well, obviously look for the obvious signs, changes in patterns, wait, someone losing passion for what they love, right? People tying up things, loose ends. But I do want to caution, don't necessarily always think there is signs. I think that people need to understand that. And that when I got up there at the town hall and I told the story of Bill, for me, one of the most, exciting parts of retelling that story was to make people aware that there was no sign with Bill. Everything that Bill and I were doing was talking about the future together. He was mad at me because I didn't make reservations yet, right? So I really don't want to put the burden on a lot of people thinking that it's always you who missed something, right? Because that's the trauma bomb in itself. So I think, to Dan, like the best advice I could give anybody is communicate and have a plan with your family. Like
Mhm.
that's the best way, because I've had plenty of friends that if I had to bet would do it, I would have bet they would have done it. And then people like Bill come along and it's like, that's not the guy I was betting on to do it. I've
Mhm.
had some friends that have been very vocal with their struggles in life. So I think it's just stay upstream to prevent the unpredictable, right? Be easy to talk to about mental health or what someone's going through. Never underestimate the power of, hey, how are you doing? No, seriously, how are you doing?
Mhm.
Right? So,
Absolutely.
you know,
Gosh.
I agree with you that you can't, there's not always signs, but for some there are, especially maybe you have a teenager living in the house that's going through some struggles at school. And to recognize those things and not just think, oh, she's having a bad day today or he's having a bad day,
Mm.
that, to at least be aware that there could be. And it's also dangerous because you could falsely accuse somebody of being in that position too. And
Mhm.
that's not necessarily good. So,
yeah, right. Like I always try to, like when I talk to, well, my daughters are they're out now. They moved out. They're older. But like I remember like when they were in high school, and high school, everything hits you like a
yeah.
ton of bricks. But I'd be like, okay, look, like I want to talk to you about this. And whether they talk to me or not, I'm their father. So there's a lot of stuff that they talk to other people about. But I would always say like I need to catch you when it's stage one, stage two. Like
Right.
I don't want this to progress, but I never shied away at talking about people I mean, they saw my work, right? But,
Mhm.
people get to a point where they don't want to be here anymore. And I think
Mhm.
like addressing that and saying, like, I flat out ask people all the time, you would never do anything to hurt yourself right now, would you? Or, and promise of a better day, right? Like crisis
Mhm.
is temporary. You got to keep reminding
Mhm.
people it's temporary.
Mhm.
Yeah. How many times
Absolutely.
have we gone through things in our life, especially my age, I'm 70, that you thought there was no end to it.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden there was an end to it. And it's like it made you stronger,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So, but
Blessings in
yes.
disguise.
Hey, can we talk about some fun stuff for a second?
Well, actually,
No,
No, we
I
can't.
guess not. Okay. All right.
I have one
Cheryl.
more
Okay.
topic before we get to the fun
Okay.
stuff. Um, this one's super not fun, except that you had an awesome opportunity to talk on a podcast with somebody that, is really on the other side of the aisle when it comes to, their, ideas about the necessity of guns or that sort of thing. But you had a recent appearance on someone named Marquez Green's podcast called Shared Humanity. And
Mhm.
apparently, Marquez lost a daughter in Sandy Hook.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, Nelba Marquez Green. She lost her daughter in Sandy Hook. Her daughter was the only daughter that was a person of color.
mm,
So, we send our kids to school. We work hard to get them to what we feel are safe schools, or,
right.
and, um, none of us, until we've done it or had it happen to us, I should say, done it, have it happen to us. We we
Mm-hmm.
we we can't understand what a grieving parent goes through. We can
Mm-mm.
try, but like our brain doesn't let us. I remember I said that to her in the interview. She was interviewing me, and I was like, my brain doesn't allow me to stay there. And she's like, that's a good thing. Right?
Yeah,
Like, um,
right.
but it was an awesome experience, and she's actually going to come on my podcast. We met in Tempe at the Firearms Harm Reduction convention, conference, and
Mm-hmm.
at one point there was a panel of gun people. It was like me, Bill Broussard, Edgar from Guns for Everyone, Ashley Obinsky was there, David Umani was there. Like there was a bunch of gun people, and I remember at one point she stood up. I didn't. She hadn't revealed who she was at that time, but she's like, "Do you guys ever talk to the victims of gun violence?" And I remember I was like, "Okay." The way she said it, she's clearly been a victim of gun violence. I don't know how, you know what I mean? But you could feel someone's energy. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember being like, "Hey, I do it all the time on my show." Like,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So anyways, we developed a relationship. Then I found out what happened to her, that she had lost her daughter. I remember walking up to her and just not even I'm just like, I'm sorry that happened to you. That's all I could say, right?
Right.
And I was like, if you'd love to come on my show. So I ended up doing her show first. Now, why is that a big moment? It's a big moment because she's only had victims of gun violence on her show. So for her to have someone who represents the 2A community in the firearms industry on the show is, I think, is a big deal. And
Yes.
at one point, she was like, "Yeah, we disagree on things," and I was like, "We disagree on one thing. That's what we know so far, Nelba. Like, we don't know if we agree on the 50 other things in life." And she was like, "Great point," right? Like,
Well played.
um,
Well done.
yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Um,
but it was cool to kind of once again bridge that gap. And I told her, I was like, "Your story makes me want to work harder. It doesn't, you know what I
mm,
mean? Like it makes me
mhm,
want to keep going." And I told her, I was like, yeah, we both want the same thing. We don't want people to die. We don't want people to
mhm,
get hurt.
mhm.
It's just what we think the solution for that is different. That's all.
Yes.
Like,
Absolutely.
I'm not going to hate you because if anybody has probably a right to just nonsensically or
Mhm.
just say I want them all banned, right? Like
Mhm.
I give that to her. She went through
Sure.
the ultimate price, and
Mm.
it's a good balance, but it shows that we can sit in a room together, talk together, laugh together,
Yes.
and really appreciate each other. And I asked her at one point in the show, I'll let you guys know when the show is released, but I had
Yes.
actually said, like, does it help you to look at somebody like me from the firearms industry who's actually putting forth solutions? Did that make a difference? She said, that's the only reason why you're on this show.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes. That's
So,
Well,
fantastic.
obviously, the guy that did the shooting in Sandy Hook had mental issues. Maybe
Mm.
not a suicide, or maybe that's his way of, be, you know,
Acting out,
acting out.
well,
whatever,
Yeah.
but
I think it was a suicide. I think most mass shootings are suicide turned outwards.
mm,
So technically, you can classify it as a suicide, but
Right.
there's a lot of things that came into play with Sandy Hook. There was irresponsible storage, right? Like
mm,
his mother paid the ultimate price because she did not have those guns locked up and he had access to those firearms.
Right.
So there's a lot of things. It was the perfect storm of things that went wrong, but um, you know, I love it too because I gotta be honest with you. Our side says some pretty silly things sometimes, and it's
that's
like,
true.
I wanted to be like, okay, some of you say that it didn't exist or didn't happen or it's crisis actors. Tell her that.
Mm,
Tell that to her face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
this negative outcomes happen. They happen with
yes.
every tool. They happen with
Mhm.
Yes.
cars. They happen with everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, I love that you two opened yourselves up to even the initial meeting and then to put yourself in a position to be on her show um, and shared humanity. I mean, that's the perfect title for of her podcast. But
And that helps
anyway,
with
I don't
that
want to
bridge
ever
too.
know. It is. I don't want to ever know what it feels like to go through what she's been through
Yeah.
and to at least have some appreciation of that we can't know and to hear and listen and be present is, I mean, that's just being human. So I do
Hmm.
love that you did that. I'm sorry, did I cut you
I'm
off?
just saying it brings that bridge closer together when you open your heart and your mind to somebody that's gone through those things to work with them. Because if you just ignore them or push them away, how does that solve anything?
Absolutely. All right, now
Yeah, it
you
was
want to.
interesting. Wait 1 second before we get to the fun stuff. But it was really interesting because now I'm thinking back about the show. Like she didn't realize that I lost my one of my best friends and
Mm,
the president of my company to suicide. And I actually said that
mm,
on the show. Like, and I could see it in her face. She was like,
mm,
I didn't know
Right.
that. She's like, I'm sorry.
mhm.
Not that we're playing like let's let's just throw out all
Right.
the
Right.
but
One-upmanship.
No.
yeah, right. It had nothing to do with that. It was more or less like, I hope her listeners, because I'm sure there's a lot of listeners there that are probably going to give her some grief that she would actually let me on the show.
Mhm,
I'm sure, just like she's probably gotten grief that I'm at the conference, right?
mhm,
Like, I can't believe the
mhm.
gun guy is at the conference, but you talk about the bridging the gaps. It's like all we're looking for is maybe a few people to be like, you know what? Okay, like I was firm in my belief and my hate for these guys, but now
Mhm.
maybe I'll take a look. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll listen, right? So if you could just change some minds, and I know a lot of gun people are probably going to be like, there's Mike being super gun or friendly to anti-gun people, but I stand on what I believe in. And I'm not
Mhm.
compromising my rights. I can have a discussion with people, and I don't want to walk through this earth going, you guys wonder why they all hate us? Like,
Yeah. Right.
you got to be able to talk. So,
Mike, you keep
Right.
doing what you're doing because we need to have open minds and open hearts. We need to listen to what they have to say. You don't have to agree with everything they say,
Mhm.
but how are you going to ever solve anything if you don't talk,
Yeah.
if you don't listen? Because we could have some things wrong in what we're doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right.
fun
Now,
stuff.
Can
Fun
we
can
talk
stuff.
about fun stuff for a second?
all right, Dan, you take the wheel.
All right,
Talk
everybody.
fun stuff.
So, Pot of Gold Auctions is proud to help Walk the Talk America with a March 24th auction
Mm-hmm.
that all the proceeds go to Walk the Talk America.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some really cool guns. There's 30 different items that we have, 30 plus items right now. But some of the things I'd like to mention that these things are you just place a bid and a generous bid
Mm-hmm.
because the money you spend for these guns,
Mm-hmm.
you think about what it's doing for Walk the Talk America and what it's doing
Exactly.
for our community and our industry. So,
And it's at pogauctions.com.
yep.
And it will end on March 24th, 2026. And Michael has done an amazing job of getting the attention and the true buy-in of these manufacturers. And, this list that Dan's about to read is evidence of that. And all of these, as you say, are up for auction. Bid big, bid bold, tell your friends to outbid you. This is not the time to bargain shop for what
Yeah.
items?
So, first of all, I'd like to thank some of these manufacturers or these companies, and I don't have a whole list with me, but we've got
I have a whole
SIG.
list. I have
All
a
right.
whole list.
I want you to name them right now. Name the
Okay.
companies that donated to this cause.
Now, keep in mind, some of these companies donated more than one gun.
Oh,
So, like
yes.
for example, like we'll start with Glock. Glock custom made some custom Glocks, right? 5 of them that have walk talk. But I'll do my list, and if there's anybody I missed, let's go. But I had to feel I'm dropping a video where I talk about you guys and I talk about this is fresh, right? But here we go. Ready? We got Glock, Daria, NAA, which is North American Arms, Canic Century Arms, Ruger, Grand Power Global Ordnance, Bursa, Davidson's, SDS Arms, Diamondback, EAA, TriStar, Saber, that's like pepper spray, Carr, Lipsy's, Chattanooga Shooting Sports Supply, Alien Gear Holsters, BOG. I think I got them.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Nicely
I
done.
think you did. Some of the things that are in there is a Bursa M211, a Saber pepper spray ball launcher, a Glock 19, a 43 X, and a 45. Century Arms has an MB47, it's an AK rifle. There's a Smith & Wesson 642. There's two NAA Derringer revolver Derringers that are really cool. There's a Bursa TPR 9XT, a Ruger SR 1911, and a Ruger RXM, a SIG P365, a high point rifle. Just some really cool stuff. And just remember, call your friends, say, hey, I'm going to bid on this gun tonight. I bet I can bid more than you, and see who
Yeah,
wins.
I forgot MKS, High
Yeah,
Point. Yep, there
right.
you
Yeah,
go. So
yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up. See, that's
Yeah.
why we
So,
work together.
and there may be more, but every one of those guns were donated. And Mike, you did an amazing job getting those for Walk the Talk America, and I appreciate it. And we love what we're doing here. This is
Yeah,
awesome
and I
to be
appreciate
able
you.
to give
Trust
back
me.
to the community. So I want this, I want this to be the biggest auction in the state, so the world probably. How about
Heck
that?
yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway,
Make it
America.
so
huge, right? Go big, go bold, or go home.
yeah,
And you can bid from home. That's the
yes,
most awesome thing is this is strictly online. So you're not missing out on any, last minute bidder who walks in the door here at our auction house in Pot of Gold. This is all online. It's an even playing field. And, there's no kind of like last minute sniping like you can do at some auction houses, because if you place a bid like a half a second before it ends, it's going to open back up for a while and give your friend
Another
time
minute.
to pop in there. And then they're going to bid and it's going to open up for a minute. So that's what we're hoping for. A lot of competition, a lot of action on that, because again, every single dollar fuels the work that you've been listening to Michael Sodini talk about, him and his team at Walk the Talk America, that what they're doing to help save lives. And we are just honored to use our family business, Pot of Gold Auctions, to collaborate.
And some of the guns have engravings on them with Walk the Talk America on it. And
They're
they're really
so
cool. So
cool.
what a great conversation
Yep.
piece that is when you show your friends.
Yep. And we do it twice a year, which I've been thankful for. So manufacturers or anybody that owns a gun shop, when you see me walking towards you, just
Yep.
know that anytime you can contribute, anytime
That's
during the year, you could be like, this is for the next auction.
All the guns that we have in this auction are new. But we could also take in used guns from people that have an estate and maybe they want to donate something to help with the mental issues or whatever. But we take used guns too.
Absolutely. So just reach out to Michael or to us with Walk the Talk what is it? WTTA.org, isn't it? No.
Or walkthetalkamerica.org.
.org or
That goes a long way.
potofgoldestate.com, pogauctions.com. There's a contact button there. Just let us know, hey, these guns, we want to go to Michael's work, and we will make that happen. And thank you so much for trusting us with your fundraising efforts, Michael. It's just
Thank
an
you for
absolute
having
honor.
it. I trust you guys. That's never been in question. I knew you guys were good people the first time I ever met you.
Well, I love it. The
Likewise.
friendship goes both ways. All right. Well, we've got to wrap up and get on out of here. Tell folks one last time how they can follow all the amazing work that you're doing.
So we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Walk the Talk US, or go to our website, WTTA.org. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But if you're pro gun and you're also pro mental health and you want to fight suicide, this is the perfect organization for you because it checks every box, no compromise on rights, and basically make Earth better. So check us out.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much, Michael. I don't know when we get to see each other in person the next time, but I look forward to it.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well. I'll see you
Thanks,
down there.
Mike.
I'll come down to visit. Trust me.
I
I
got
love
some
it.
more
I
stuff.
love it. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Michael Sodini, Walk the Talk America. Yeah, I remember the very first time, I can't remember who it was who made the original connection. For some reason, I want to say it was Maj Toure, and I don't know why that is, but we were still on live radio. And when we called him for his segment, he was actually at an event. He's like walking down the hallway for an event. There's all this noise in the background. He's like, uh, either our time zones didn't line up or something weird happened. But he took the call, like he took the time and he took the call and, filled our segment on live radio, which is always, like riding a rocket, waiting for things to go wrong. So much easier on podcast because, we can edit, we can do all kinds of things. But anyway, from the minute we made that first connection, he was a hero in my book because he didn't just bail on me. He gave us the interview, and the rest is history. We just love him so much and the work that he's doing.
Well, don't forget about the auction March 24th,
Yes.
2026. It starts at, I think, 5 or 6 o'clock. I'm not sure of the
And
time.
that's during this time of
Arizona
year,
time.
it's Arizona time and
Yeah.
Pacific along.
Always just remember Arizona time because Arizona time doesn't change.
That is true. The world changes around us, but
Right.
we stay the same. Well, very quickly, let's touch on the companies, the organizations that support the work that we do. And, top of mind right now seems to be, and I love it, kind of bringing things home, American made, American jobs, all that sort of thing. And one of the companies that we work with is a private invitation only shopping club that is called patriothousehold.com. When you go there, when you're typing that out, do the / GFR for Gun Freedom Radio, because then we get a small portion of any shopping dollars that you spend there, because right now you're spending those dollars at these big box stores and they use those monies to actually diminish your freedoms. Well, patriothousehold.com / GFR uses those dollars to fuel the work we're doing and other American jobs on American soil with American made products. So check that out. And on the same theme, there's patriothousehold.com / GFR. There's also patriotmobile.com / GFR. Now, it feels like a big deal to switch your service over. I know it took us a while to do it too, but ever since we did, all of my selfies and all of my texts and all of my phone calls are now fueled by the only Christian conservative wireless provider that shares our same values. Patriotmobile.com / GFR. Keep your number, keep your phone, keep your values. And seriously, Danny, we've traveled from the top of the country to the bottom, to the left, to the right. We've been on a cruise, and we have had Patriot Mobile with us every step of the way. And the service is just as strong, the signal is just as strong as it was before we switched over. Don't hesitate, do it today. patriotmobile.com / GFR. And I think they give you some free goodies because you're helping support us as well. And then finally, attorneys on retainer. So go to our website, gunfreedomradio.com. On the main page, if you scroll down, you'll find the link for attorneys on retainer. And, we are prepared-minded enough that we carry own firearms, that we get the training, we do all the things right. We have to include in that plan, in that prepared mindset, to include an attorney on retainer, because if you do have to protect your life, no matter whether it's a firearm, a gun, a rock, a firearm or a gun, firearm, a knife, a rock, whatever it is, the law is going to visit itself upon you, and you will want to have an attorney on retainer. And so if you go there directly, be sure that you put in the promo code GFR for Gun Freedom Radio. That, again, helps fuel the work that we do.
And you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot from that too, because I've learned there's some things you can't do.
Mm-hmm. That's
And there's also things you can't say.
That's true. What did they say? Just
Shut up.
shut up.
Just shut up.
That's right. If the police, if you have to, protect your life, and the police do come and the law visits itself upon you, just shut up and call your attorney.
I'll do a free one for you.
Hmm.
Hello, 911. Yes, I'm at 22235 East blah, blah, blah. There's been a shooting. Bye.
Send an ambulance. That's right. Send an ambulance. All right. Well, thank you so much to Michael Sodini of Walk the Talk America. Thank you to all of our viewers and listeners all over the planet. Wherever there is internet, we have people who are hungry for the topics that we bring on and the subject matter experts that we bring on. And when you spend your time engaging with the content that we've put out, it's everything, because your time is your most finite resource. So we see you, we appreciate you. We also want to encourage you, if you want to see this video over again or share it with your friends, you can find it on YouTube and Rumble and pretty much any place that you can find that kind of content. When you go to these sites, please click the notifications and the subscribe button so you'll be the first to know when we put out new content. And also, it lets those platforms know that this is valuable to you. And that gives us a hedge against cancel culture, which is still out there. Unfortunately, alive and well. If you want to listen to the audio only version, then go to our website, gunfreedomradio.com, click the on demand tab, and
you can binge listen to your heart's content.
Darling. Ooh, we did that in unison. And if you want to see photos and bios and links of all of the guests that we've ever had on, including Michael Sodini from Walk the Talk America, click the guest tab. It is an ever-growing database of subject matter experts. And when you spend time there, we don't hate that. All right. Until next time, we are going to
Pray for our nation. Really
gonna-
hard, really hard this
really
time.
hard. Yeah. This conflict going on with Iran is,
I'm talking about the conflict we have between the two parties.
well, that too.
Yeah.
Definitely. And pray for our leaders. Danny hates that word, but we use it. And maybe even the ones you don't like.
Well, I don't have any leaders that I don't like.
Is that right?
It's the ones that try to be leaders that I don't like.
Okay. Well, then those people, especially the ones
The
you don't
unleaders.
like, the unleaders, right? And until next time, be good to each other. Have a great week, and God bless.
Bid at the auction. Bye bye.
And bid at the auction. Bye-bye.